It's become clear that terrorism has become a business for some international banks. It costs money to launch terrorist attacks, and the people who finance those terrorist attacks have to put their money somewhere. Lately, attorneys have been able to successfully obtain criminal conspiracy charges against global banking giant Credit Suisse and several other international banks that have been implicated in laundering terrorism money. In 2015, UBS AG paid millions of dollars to defend and settle what was characterized as violations of U.S. terrorism sanctions. They thought it was a good idea to process hundreds of transactions worth millions of dollars for entities that had been placed on terrorism blacklists. They had been warned about the terrorism blacklisting, but chose to ignore those warnings and take the money anyway. In 2016, HSB was sued for laundering money for cartel terrorists who murdered Americans. The case was initiated in Texas federal court and maintained that the London-based HSBC Bank had provided a continuous and systematic support of laundering cartel terrorist money. In 2012, Obama's then Attorney General Eric Holder fined HSBC almost $2 billion for engaging in cartel terrorist money laundering. As you'd expect with America's Department of Justice, no one went to jail. U.S. citizens can only sue a government that's been designated as a state sponsor of terrorism by the United States. That would include countries like Iran, Syria, North Korea, among others. But now, with new legislation that's been pushed through Congress, citizens can now sue Saudi Arabia for the role, for example, in funding the 9/11 terrorism attacks. More importantly, they can sue the banks that washed any money that may have been used for that mass murder. Terrorism cases against foreign governments have been hugely successful in the past. More than $10 billion has been received for victims. But now, more than ever, the focus is turning towards the banks that wash and distribute money to terrorists all over the globe who'd be unable to pull off many of their terrorist activities without that washed money. More information is becoming available that shows the steps of money laundering through international banks. The key is to show where the money originated, which international banks participated in washing and legitimizing that money, what part of a terrorist entity received that money, and what individuals were killed and crippled in the use of that money. A national confederation of some of the best trial lawyers in the country are now working together to sue countries and sue banks and individuals who've been part of an international terrorism money washing scheme that now has been underway for almost a decade.